Nothing great is ever accomplished without sacrifice. And that is certainly the case of the history of Saddleback Church. Our church family, our ministry in 500 ministries in Southern California, and our ministry in 197 countries through the Peace Plan is only possible because of the sacrificial generosity of members that we've had here for 35 years. Really, to be a part of Saddleback is, by definition, to be generous, because it's one of the key values of our church. We believe in generosity. We make no apology about that, because in order to be like Jesus Christ, we have to learn to be generous. Everything we have in life is a gift of God's generosity. The Bible says God so loved the world that he gave. And you can give without loving, but you cannot love without giving. And so it's a key value, and we celebrate generosity at Saddleback Church. And right now we're in this Daring Faith campaign, which is a growing, sowing, and going campaign. And each weekend we're recognizing what we're calling Daring Faith heroes during this campaign. And we're recognizing people who are actively serving and sacrificing their time, their energy, their money to make Saddleback Church happen. But I thought it would also be appropriate to honor the Daring Faith heroes of the past that have brought us to this point so far, since this is our 35th anniversary year. Now, you may be watching this at one of our Saddleback campuses, or you may be watching online. Regardless of where you're hearing me speak, either way, everything that our church does to help you is a result of the sacrifice of people in the past. Everything that we do, we helping people worship, helping people fellowship, helping people grow in discipleship, helping people find a place of ministry and serve, and helping people develop their talents, and helping people share their life message with the world. All that we do is because people have given generously. And everything that we do in the Peace Plan, to promote reconciliation and plant churches, to equip ethical leaders, to assist the poor, to care for the sick, to educate the next generation. All these things we do only are possible because of the sacrifice of generous people. And so I thought that I would show you visibly the sacrifices of the people in this church over the last 35 years. About every 5 years, we do a special emphasis, a generosity campaign like Daring Faith. And I thought what I would do is show you the sacrifice of people in the past, so we could just thank these people. If you'll look on the handout that I gave you, the outline, on the back there's a page called The History of Daring Faith, and it gives you all these statistics, that everything you see at Saddleback today was made possible by the sacrificial generosity of faith heroes who gave cash and made a 3-year financial faith commitment during our 7 previous campaigns. Now, I don't have the cards from the very first campaign, but the brochure looked like this. It was called Together We Grow. And this actually happened in 1983 to 1985. And there's a very young 25-year-old pastor there with pimples. And during this time, the purpose was to start a savings fund to buy land eventually for our future church. And as a result of this, Together We Grow, just a handful of families committed and gave $1.2 million over 3 years to start a savings fund to start buying land for what would eventually be 15 different campuses. Then in 1987 to 90, we did a campaign called Possess Our Land. And it was to buy our first piece of property for our first campus. And the result of that was 413 families, and here are the commitment cards right here. These are the 413 families. They gave $3.5 million over 3 years period, in addition to their regular giving. This is in addition, over and above their tithe, to help buy the down payment for our first property. The average cash and commitment for family was $7,000 a family. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money today, much less in the 1980s. That's the kind of sacrifice our people gave to give and to buy land. People actually sold their homes, bought smaller homes and gave the equity. People canceled vacations. People gave their pension plans. I know people who gave their wedding rings. I know people who didn't have any money, and they sold their television and went without TV for 3 years so they could give to possess our land. That's the kind of sacrifice. I could give you story after story of sacrifice. Then a few years later, we did the next campaign in 1995 to 1997, and it was called Time to Build. And at that time, we were meeting in a tent, a giant tent. And in the Time to Build campaign, and these are all of the cards from Time to Build right here, and there's tons of them right here. The purpose was to build our first building, which was the Lake Forest Worship Center. And then the result of Time to Build was these people gave, over and above their regular offerings, $12 million over 3 years. The average cash and commitment was over $14,000 a family. That is an amazing amount when you think about it. That's the kind of commitment that people gave, said, this is my church, I love my church, it's changed my life, and they gave over 3 years $14,000 per family. Then a few years later, we did the next campaign, which was called Building for Life, and this was the brochure. And there were all kinds of projects that we had here in Building for Life, and the goal of Building for Life was to buy 40 more acres, to build a ministry center, to build the bridge at Lake Forest, erect a youth tent, pave parking. The result is these people gave $24 million over 3 years, in addition to their regular gifts. Then next came what was called Building for Life. Then next came was one called For the Children. And For the Children was only a 1-year campaign, and these are commitments for the children. It was only 1 year, and the whole goal was to build a children's ministry center there at Lake Forest. And the result was in 1 year, people gave $12 million to build that building in addition to their regular tithe. Then a few years later, and many of you were here for this, you can see how many cards there are here. This is Extend the Vision. And in Extend the Vision, we had major gifts. This is the brochure for Extend the Vision. And the goal was to build the student zone, which is the refinery, and most important of all, to launch the peace plan globally. And we said, we're going to take the good news to every country in the world. And we're going to promote reconciliation, equip leaders, assist the poor, care for the sick, educate the next generation. And we're going to be the first church in 2,000 years to literally go to every nation. And there are 197 nations. And we did that, and during Extend the Vision, we launched the peace plan. The result was $48 million was given by people through cash and commitments over 36 months to make that happen. Then again, the last one, and most of you were here for this, it was called Decade of Destiny. How many of you were here for Decade of Destiny? Yeah, see, most of you were here for that. And the purpose of Decade of Destiny in all these cards was to multiple things. To start our multiple campuses. So if you're in a campus, you're there because of Decade of Destiny. And we started 14 campuses. We opened the Peace Center, which this has now fed over 100,000 people food. We have a free clinic. We have job training. We have green cards. We have free legal aid. We have all kinds of ministries through the Peace Center that we help. That was funded by Decade of Destiny. We renovated the Rancho Capistrano Retreat Center, which we're using, and we started 4 international campuses in Manila, Hong Kong, Berlin, and Buenos Aires. Now, to me, of all of these have all been special to me, and some of you have been here for all 7 of these. You've been here for all 7 campaigns. The Decade of Destiny, to me, was the most amazing one because we did it in the middle of the worst recession in our lifetime. Do you guys remember 2011 and 2012? And how the economy just went sour? We had, during this campaign, 11% of our church was out of work. They didn't have jobs. And everybody said, there's no way you can do a generosity emphasis in the middle of the worst recession in our lifetime. I said, you don't know Saddleback Church. This is the most generous church on planet Earth. And I say that without any fear of contradiction. And in spite of the worst economic recession of our lifetime, faithful people gave over $35 million in 3 years in addition to their general fund and tithe. And we actually had people who were out of work who actually made commitments and said, I don't have any money to give right now, but this is what I commit to give when I get a job. And that was really daring faith. These are the people who've made Saddleback what we are today.